So what we are saying is that working class people have enormous potential and they have enormous abilities if they're given a chance to shine, to participate. And that requires time. Time. Because if you're working God knows how long hours, you are not in a state to get involved. So the key thing is, if we want working people to participate in the running of society, in the running of industry, of technique, or whatever you want, which I believe is the essential ingredient for socialism, then you have to lower drastically the hours of work to give them the time, the free time, in order to participate in the running of society, to raise their cultural level, to participate in education of culture and so on and so forth. And that's what we'd have to do. But why is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Why? Because we have this enormous build-up under capitalism of enormous sophisticated machinery, of automated machinery, of science, of technique, that if it was put to the use in a productive way for people's needs, we could, instead of throwing people 3, 4, 5 million on the dole, everybody gets a job, everybody has work, but everybody then has a lower amount of hours worked. In other words, the amount of hours come tumbling down. You could work, why not, 6 hours a day, maybe 5 hours a day. As society progresses and increases its productive potential, the amount of hours you need to work will be less and less. So you have free time. And when I talk about a new society, I'm talking about happiness. Sounds like a great little word, like happiness. How do you have a feeling of fulfillment, of joy, of an ability to have relationships with people rather than not have relationships with people, insofar as we want human beings to live as human beings and not as animals. And I say that in the most respectful way, because this is a dog-eat-dog society we live in under capitalism. It's all about greed, and then you say, "Oh, it's human nature." Well, of course, if you've got scarcity, you do have a bit of greed. Some people want a bit more than others. You do it, but if you put people in a different environment where you've got a lot of things, you don't, and you can provide the needs of people, then you do not have this greed. Look at those miners who were trapped down in the mine in Chile. They survived. Not only survived, their well-being was why? Because there was solidarity. They worked together, not against each other. In other words, in the most terrible situation, human solidarity wins out in the end. And that is probably the deepest instincts of human solidarity. But you've got to raise the living standards. You know, if you have a desert island and you've got one loaf of bread, you've got two people on it, they'll fight probably over the piece of that loaf of bread. But if you've got a desert island with two people and you've got loads of stuff on it, they're not going to fight each other because you provide, because it's ludicrous, it's nonsense. In other words, it's the scarcities of capitalism which create the conflict, the jealousies and all the rest of that emerge. It does occur. But the way to eliminate that is obviously on the basis of raising the living standard of people. In other words, and how are you going to do that? You do it on the basis of production for need, and not in one country, but internationally. It does require, yes, dare I say it, an international revolution, because socialism can only be done on a world scale. But then you raise the entire living standards of the entire globe, rather than, at the moment, a tiny handful, like an idea of people, like one guy anyway. So I'm quite amazed. Well, first one, look at this. This is today, isn't it? Yeah. The FT, have you read the Financial Times? Nice little article today, look. Controls on currencies doomed, it says. The only way I illustrate this point is that the governments in certain countries are trying to protect their currencies. And they can't do it. Because the people who own the currency, these billionaires, are able to get round them. They're able to dictate the governments. They're able to knock governments aside and do what they like. In fact, it's got on page 4, one of the guys who does it. There's an interview with a man who's called Bill Gross, and he says, yeah, bond market, Sage reveals lessons from blackjack. I don't know if you know what blackjack is. It's gambling, with cards, isn't it? He went to the casino and learned how to become a bond manager. He now has a portfolio, they call it, of $1,000 billion. Not a bad little sum, $1,000 billion. This guy, this one guy. So the power this guy has, he employs 1,300 people worldwide, and the power in this man's hands is phenomenal. He can destroy governments, just like George Soros. He came to Britain, by the way, doesn't it? And bet against the British pound and forced it off the European control, whatever it was, mechanism. And he got a huge stack of money for it. These people are spivs or speculators. They've had their day. And the capitalists are holding on. We really are the future. And and everybody's unemployed, desperate, starving in the world and so on. And we are the future. They say. It reminds me of, years ago, they used to have toll gates, didn't they, in Britain? The toll gate. You can imagine a society where all the roads, and each road had its own toll gate. And the roads were paid for by the government, by the way, but never mind, there are toll gates everywhere. And these, every time a car drove up, the man used to rush out from the toll gate, collect his money, open the gate, and the car used to go through. And after the day was out, the man who did the toll gate was so tired. He put so much effort into this. He really, really worked hard. And he thought he was the best. He thought he was necessary, if you like. And the moral of the tale is that under a society based on these toll gate systems, think they are there for life. They think they are natural. When in fact, the matter, all you want to do is get rid of the toll gates, get a free road, and they're not really necessary. In the same way, the capitalists are not really necessary. They're there as an imposition, because what they do anyway, they speculate, they don't work, and therefore they finish. And they therefore are a barrier to the development of human society itself. And all I say they should do is part company. They should move aside and allow working people to take control. And when I say take control, is there any kind of examples of this, apart from I said Russia, but there was an example which is worth quoting, the Paris Commune of 1871. And in the Paris Commune of 1871, there was a war going on between the French and the Germans. German armies invaded and nearly took Paris, and the French ruling class decided to move out, and the workers rose up and took power in Paris, and they organised themselves. And how did they do it? Well, yes, they elected people. Funny enough, it wasn't a dictatorship, they elected people. And not only did they elect people, they elected people with the right of recall. In other words, if someone was doing badly, out. You don't represent us, out. Immediately, no messing about. And also, they would be on the average wage of ordinary workers. So there wasn't any bureaucracy, wasn't any sort of elite. And the other thing they demanded was that everybody should have arms. There shouldn't be a separate state holding them down. So you had the election of officials, the right of recall, and none of them on a privileged basis. And what they want to do is rotate as well areas of responsibility. So everybody had an opportunity to involve themselves in the running of society. What a great idea, as opposed to bureaucrats who are privileged and there for their entire lives and so on and so forth. So this is the kind of model that occurs in history, pointers if you want, because as I said, I do not have a crystal ball. I do not know exactly how socialism will work out in detail or whatever. It's not possible. And will there be problems? Of course there'll be problems. Will there be arguments? Of course there'll be arguments. But at least we can have rational arguments. At least we can have rational problems, and we can discuss them out and solve them. Because every problem has a solution. And after all, 95% of all scientists who have ever lived on this planet are alive today. It's amazing. But these scientists are usually employed by governments and companies, and they are either fighting one another, in competition with one another, or they guard their secrets against one another. What happened if they cooperated? Huh? What a fantastic opportunity where science would cooperate in the benefits of everybody, solving the problems of disease, of hunger, of all the other things. But of course, on a capitalist basis, it cannot be done. It's impossible, because the profit motive dominates and the interests of the capitalist class come first. So I say, capitalism had its day. You can tell that outside. Millions unemployed, starving. It's going to get worse, by the way. We've had last 40-odd, 50-odd years have been a kind of good time for capitalism. It's going to, from now on, it's way down because of the impasse it's reached on a world scale. Therefore, socialism is not some dream, but socialism, with the nice music in the background, is a possibility, can be an inevitability if we fight for it. Because, we make history. We decide. It's not made for us. We can do it if we participate together and fight for that idea. If I leave it with that.